Today I'd like to talk to students about the philosophy of Bertrand Russell. Bertrand Russell was a mathematician and philosopher. He was a contributor to the ideas of uncertainty. He was a contributor to the principles of uncertainty, which makes him somewhat automatically a contributor to the quantum revolution. He was somewhat existential. He was somewhat just plain rebel. But in this reading, Russell asks us why we study philosophy. He presents the question, why would we study philosophy and forsake the hard sciences? Which naturally we're not going to forsake the hard sciences. The hard sciences arm at a practical and tangible knowledge. So why would we study philosophy, which is the unknown? And philosophy is inquiry unto itself. Ideally, philosophy rarely finds a conclusion. In ethics, we may look for conclusions, but in many cases, those conclusions are compromise. In logic, we may look for conclusions, but those conclusions are often based on compromise. Rhetoric and debate, the same thing. We may look for conclusions, but the broad school of philosophy, the greater university of philosophy, the universalism of philosophy, is that there are more questions than answers, which is what Russell is ultimately getting at. Who benefits from studying philosophy? The student benefits, but on a more macro level, the people around the student benefit, because people who can do philosophy, who can philosophize, i.e., use philosophy as a means to ponder big questions, these people tend to help people make good decisions. So there is an end game in play. We free our minds from the prejudice of so-called practical men. I love that quote from Russell. So I asked a question. The McClendon question, you'll find these throughout the course. Where can thought and inquiry take us if practicality were removed from the conversation? If we took out of the conversation the idea that, hey, this needs to be practical, this needs to make sense. If we took these things out of the conversation, could we break down some barriers of thought? Could idealism then have a meaningful application? You know, in our culture, idealism and ideals are largely dismissed, usually for the sake of so-called practicality, which in many cases is a troubling practicality. The benefit of uncertainty. Philosophy seeks truth but cannot claim truth. We never arrive at truth in philosophy. There are more questions than answers. This trip through uncertainty can free us from the tyranny of custom. Uncertainty is liberating, while certainty is very confining. I made this particular sentence very, very short because I wanted it to stay with you. Doubt feeds wonder. When you doubt what you know, you have more possibility of wondering about what's possible. Uncertainty relieves us from the burdens of arrogance. I'm sure that in many conversations and in many lectures, people have felt that somebody was so arrogant about what they knew, and what you know may not always be what you know. What you know may not always be true knowledge. What you know may be an emphatically held opinion. So how many times do these emphatically held opinions keep us from arriving at knowledge that's useful, at knowledge that is idealist? You know, we have troubling things going on around us, possibly because of a lack of idealism. Philosophy's chief value is philosophy frees us from the narrow aims of self-contemplation. Many people who think that they are doing philosophy or philosophizing about a situation are simply taking the phrase "I think" and then taking it a step further and thinking about what they think. But we need to think about what we believe, and we need to think about the things that limit our thought. Our harshly held, strongly held, passionately held impressions can significantly limit our thought. To elaborate on this, thinking for ourselves is a self-serving manner. This is not doing philosophy. We must approach philosophy from many angles with a pure and open mind. Self-gain is reductionist. Impartiality can only be gained through uncertainty. If you ever go before a judge, you better hope that judge has a healthy relationship with uncertainty. To conclude, philosophy doesn't seek narrow or definite answers, but we do philosophy for the sake of the questions themselves.